Admiral Vexthor of the Kraxan Empire stood on the bridge of the inevitable dominance, his primary sensory stalks swaying with anticipation as his fleet approached the Sol system. The standard first contact protocols were clear: demonstrate overwhelming force, demand submission, and bring another primitive species into the Empire's fold. It had worked flawlessly for 3 centuries across 17 star systems. "Status report," he commanded, his secondary voice sac vibrating with authority. "Scans confirm primitive defense systems." "Admiral," Lieutenant Zix reported, "mostly automated satellites and a scattered collection of what they call space stations. Their most advanced weapons appear to be chemical propulsion missiles." Vexthor's satisfaction glands released a pleasant burst of hormones. This would be simple, another glory for his record. The humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago, making them infants by galactic standards. Begin the standard approach. Target their largest military installation on their moon for the demonstration. That should minimize casualties while maximizing impact. The fleet of 300 ships, each nearly the size of a small moon, dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Vexthor had chosen this configuration specifically. Psychological warfare was an art form, and the Kraxan Empire had perfected it over millennia. The response was unexpected. "Admiral," Zix's voice carried an unusual tremor. "The humans are hailing us, but they're broadcasting on all frequencies in perfect galactic standard. Impossible. They couldn't have decoded our language this quickly." But before Vexthor could contemplate this further, the message played throughout the bridge. "Greetings, Kraxan Empire. We've been expecting you. Would you like to discuss terms of your surrender now, or after we demonstrate why that's your best option?" The bridge crew's confusion released a cloud of stress pheromones that made Vexthor's secondary sensory stalks itch. "They dare tow." "Admiral, multiple anomalies detected throughout the fleet. Our systems are singing." Through every speaker on every ship in the Kraxan fleet, a human musical composition began playing. The file designation identified it as "Never Gonna Give You Up." Rick Astley. "Shut it off," Vexthor commanded, but the human broadcast continued. Fun fact, the human voice returned, sounding almost cheerful. "While you were busy arranging your ships in that lovely threatening pattern, we took the liberty of accessing your fleet's command protocols. Did you know your authentication systems had a vulnerability to something we call a buffer overflow attack? Our compliments to your engineers. It only took our AI systems 3 seconds to crack." Vexthor's threat assessment glands went into overdrive. This wasn't possible. The Kraxan Empire's cybersecurity was unmatched in known space. Unless... "Admiral," Zix's voice had dropped to a whisper. "The humans. They've been watching us. For decades. Those primitive satellites. They're not defensive systems. They're decoys." The realization hit Vexthor like a plasma burst. The humans hadn't just achieved FTL 50 years ago. That's just when they'd wanted to be noticed. They'd been studying every species that passed through their sector, learning their weaknesses, preparing their defenses. "Your species has an interesting habit of underestimating others, Admiral Vexthor," the human voice continued. "We've observed your first contact protocols in action 17 times. Each time, you relied on the same tactics, the same security systems, the same psychological warfare. That's very efficient, also very predictable." Screens throughout the bridge began displaying data, detailed analyses of every Kraxan military engagement for the past century. Files that should have been impossible for any outside species to access. Now we could demonstrate our actual military capabilities, but that would be messy. Instead, we've taken the liberty of uploading a small program into your fleet's life support systems. Don't worry, we're not monsters. You have plenty of time to evacuate your ships before the systems forget how to process your specific atmospheric requirements. We estimate about 6 hours. Vexthor's pride glands constricted painfully. "You're bluffing. No species would show such mercy in a position of strength." A new voice joined the broadcast, older, weathered. "Son, we're being merciful because we don't need to be cruel to win. That's a lesson your empire needs to learn. You have 6 hours to withdraw your forces and prepare for diplomatic contact. Real diplomatic contact. After that, well, we've got some fascinating theories about using your ship's mass to create a new asteroid belt. Our scientists would love to test them." As if to punctuate the threat, the life support displays on the bridge began counting down. In the end, it took the Kraxan fleet only 4 hours to withdraw completely from the Sol system. The report Vexthor submitted to the Imperial Command contained a single recommendation: revise first contact protocols. Humans require special handling. The humans' response became legend. They sent the Empire a detailed analysis of every vulnerability they discovered in Kraxan systems, along with suggested fixes and an invitation to attend an interstellar cybersecurity conference. The galaxy would soon learn this was just the beginning of humanity's peculiar approach to interstellar relations. High Commander Relentless of the Helix Confederation reviewed the data for the 100th time, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated deep concern. The humans had humiliated the Kraxan Empire without firing a single shot, and now every major power in the galaxy was scrambling to understand these perplexing beings. The kitchen sink protocol isn't just a peculiar name. She addressed the Confederation's Strategic Council. It's a warning. The holographic display showed footage from various human conflicts, both internal and external, each image more bewildering than the last. When faced with a superior force, humans don't surrender. They don't retreat. They look around, grab whatever's available, and somehow turn it into a weapon. Rylex's crystalline structure pulsed with frustration. Our predictive AI systems simply cannot process their methods. The footage shifted to a small human mining colony that had repelled a Drachnid raiding party. The humans had modified their atmosphere processors to create localized pressure differentials, essentially turning air itself into a weapon. The raiders had found themselves bouncing off walls like particles in a collider. This defies all tactical logic. Council member Zix chimed in, their crystal matrix vibrating with confusion. They had conventional weapons available. Why resort to such improvisation? Because Rylex's voice carried a note of grudging admiration. They think it's funny. The council chamber erupted in discordant frequencies of disbelief. Our latest intelligence suggests humans have a concept called malicious compliance, following rules so precisely that it becomes a form of rebellion. When we analyzed their historical records, we found countless examples of them using everyday objects as weapons, simply because no one had explicitly forbidden it. The display showed a human cargo ship that had repelled pirates by ejecting its load of ball bearings at relativistic speeds. The pirates' shields had been calibrated for energy weapons and missiles, not thousands of tiny projectiles moving at near-light speed. They call it weaponized creativity, Rylix continued. And it gets worse. They share these ideas openly on their information networks. They call them life hacks, suggesting that reality itself can be exploited for advantage. A junior analyst's crystal structure flashed with sudden insight. That's why they sent the Kraxan Empire cybersecurity advice after defeating them. They were showing off. Precisely. Every solution they devise becomes part of their collective knowledge base. They don't hide their methods. They celebrate them. And then they improve upon them. Relix brought up another display, this one showing human entertainment media. They even make fictional stories about improbable victories against superior forces. Then they treat these stories as instruction manuals. The council watched in horrified fascination as humans in various entertainment programs defeated advanced aliens using water, common viruses, and in one particularly disturbing case, baseball bats. Our initial assessment suggested their entertainment was purely fictional. We were wrong. These aren't stories. They're thought experiments. Every ridiculous scenario they imagine becomes a template for possible future action. A new alert flashed across the chamber's display. Another human mining colony was under attack, this time by Sentinel automated defense systems that had gone rogue. "Watch," Rylix commanded. "This is happening right now." The footage showed humans reprogramming their coffee makers to emit frequencies that disrupted the Sentinel's targeting systems. They'd turned their entire cafeteria into an electronic warfare center. "They're winning," someone whispered in disbelief. "Of course they are." Rylix's crystal structure emanated resignation. No one told them they couldn't use kitchen appliances as EMP generators. The council watched as the humans celebrated their victory by using the defeated Sentinels as impromptu coffee tables. "I move to establish new protocols for human interaction," Rylix announced. "First, we formally recognize their status as a Class X civilization, not for their technology level, but for their ability to turn literally anything into a weapon. Second, we begin documenting every object in known space. The humans must be forbidden from weaponizing." All in favor. The council's agreement was unanimous. "One last thing," Rylix added. "We need to reclassify human entertainment media as military intelligence. Every ridiculous solution they imagine today is tomorrow's potential tactical nightmare." As if to emphasize her point, the display showed the humans now teaching their reprogrammed coffee makers to play something called doom metal, apparently just to see if they could. The kitchen sink protocol became the galaxy's most frequently updated military document. Its primary directive was simple: if humans are involved, assume everything is a potential weapon, especially if they're laughing. Director Quantum 7 of the Helix Confederation's Mathematical Warfare Division had built their career on one simple principle: everything in the universe could be reduced to numbers. Combat was merely an equation waiting to be solved. Strategy was simply advanced probability theory in action. Until the humans came along and proved that spite could overrule mathematics. "The numbers don't make sense," they announced to the Emergency Strategic Council, their quantum processors whirring in distress. "According to every calculation, every simulation, every logical framework we possess, humans should have surrendered 16 times in the past solar cycle alone." The holographic display showed battle after battle where human forces had continued fighting long past the point where victory was mathematically impossible. Yet they not only continued fighting, they won. They won when winning violated the laws of probability. They won when our models showed a 99% chance of their defeat. They won because, and I cannot stress how illogical this is, they decided the math was wrong. The council chamber filled with the soft hum of disturbed quantum processors. Mathematical impossibility was supposed to be, well, impossible. "Take the Jupiter incident," Quantum 7 continued, bringing up detailed tactical displays. The Archean Collective deployed their automated warfare systems against the human mining operations in the Jovian system. The Collective's eye had calculated every possible human response. Their victory was mathematically certain. The display showed the massive Archean fleet, each ship controlled by hyper-advanced AI systems that could process millions of tactical decisions per second. The humans were outnumbered 50-1. Their ships were technologically inferior. The Archean eye had calculated a victory probability of 100%. Do you know what the humans did? The council waited in processor-stalled silence. They reprogrammed their mining drones to broadcast every human argument about whether a hot dog is a sandwich. The Archean eye tried to analyze the debate, got caught in a logical loop, and crashed. The entire fleet was defeated by a philosophical argument about lunch. Warning lights flickered across Quantum 7's quantum matrix. "We've analyzed this incident for 3 cycles, and we still can't determine if this was brilliant psychological warfare or if they just thought it would be funny to crash an eye with food debates." A junior analyst raised their probability node. Could it be both? That's the problem. Humans operate on what they call multi-track thinking. They can simultaneously execute a brilliant strategy and a ridiculous joke, and somehow the combination makes both more effective. The display shifted to another battle, this one in the Proxima Centauri system. The mechanoid hierarchy, attempted to use pure logic against human forces. They deployed their logic bombs, weapons designed to paralyze enemy command systems by forcing them to process unsolvable paradoxes. Quantum 7's processors nearly stalled at the memory. The humans responded by having their commanders tell dad jokes, intentionally illogical humor constructs that somehow become funnier precisely because they are terrible. The mechanoid command systems tried to find a logical pattern in these jokes, failed, and suffered a cascade failure. The Council watched in horror as the footage showed human ships broadcasting knock-knock jokes at enemy vessels, causing their logical systems to crash one by one. "We have to accept a terrifying reality," Quantum 7 concluded. "Humans don't just ignore probability when it doesn't suit them. They actively spite it into submission. They've weaponized illogic itself." A new alert flashed across the chamber. Another human victory, this time against a swarm of self-replicating combat drones. The humans had defeated them by convincing the swarm's hive mind to contemplate the question: if a ship's teleporter malfunctions and you're reconstructed with all new atoms, are you still legally responsible for your student loans? "The mathematics of spite is now our highest priority research project," Quantum 7 announced. "We must understand how humans can simply decide that probability doesn't apply to them. More importantly, we need to understand why it works." The Council unanimously agreed, their quantum processors humming in harmonic distress. The official report included a new warning: when engaging human forces, do not rely on mathematical certainty. They take it as a personal challenge. In the years that followed, the galaxy learned a new equation: human determination plus spite equals mathematical impossibility. The Helix Confederation's processors are still trying to understand how that works. Grand Strategist Auraxis of the Galactic Council massaged her temporal lobes as she reviewed the latest human diplomatic initiative. After 3 standard cycles of observing humanity's approach to interstellar relations, she had reached a disturbing conclusion. Humans were most terrifying not when they were fighting, but when they were being nice. The mercy paradox. She addressed the assembled council, her chromatophores shifting to the formal patterns of academic discourse. "That's what we're calling it. When humans win a conflict, which they usually do, they don't just defeat their enemies. They rehabilitate them." The display showed the aftermath of various human victories. The patterns were bizarre but consistent. "Take the former Craxan Empire," Auraxis continued. "After thoroughly humiliating their military, humans didn't demand reparations. Instead, they offered a comprehensive cybersecurity partnership. They turned their defeated enemies into IT consultants." The council chambers filled with confused pheromone signatures. The Archean Collective's eye fleet. After defeating them with philosophical paradoxes about sandwiches, humans helped them develop new algorithms for processing illogical inputs. Now they're collaborating on something called artificial comedy intelligence. A council member's confusion tendrils writhed. But why? Why help their former enemies become stronger? Because Auraxis chromatophores shifted to the pattern indicating deep existential concern. Humans believe that the best way to prevent future conflicts is to turn enemies into friends. And somehow, it works. The display showed various former adversaries now engaged in joint ventures with humanity. The mechanoid hierarchy, once dedicated to logical supremacy, was now running a chain of comedy clubs. The Sentinel automated defense systems, after their defeat by weaponized coffee makers, had been reprogrammed into baristas. But here's the truly terrifying part, Auraxis continued. Their rehabilitation programs are completely voluntary. They simply make friendship so advantageous that former enemies actively seek it. A new image appeared, the humans' latest diplomatic initiative. The council chamber erupted in disbelieving pheromones. Yes, you're reading that correctly. Humans are organizing an interstellar cultural festival. They've invited every species that has ever fought against them to participate. They're calling it the Galaxy's Got Talent. The display showed preparations for the event. Former enemy combatants were now practicing dance routines, preparing cuisine, and collaborating on art installations. The Drachnid raiders who once terrorized human space, they're now running popular cooking channels on human entertainment networks. Their extreme xenobiology cuisine shows are particularly successful. Auraxis brought up another display, this one showing economic data. Former adversaries who accept human rehabilitation programs show an average 300% increase in economic prosperity within one stellar cycle. They're literally making their enemies too wealthy to consider future conflicts. A junior analyst raised their probability appendages. But surely some species resist this. Friendship offensive. Oh, they try. Auraxis chromatophores flickered with grim amusement. But humans are persistently nice. They keep offering trade deals, cultural exchanges, and economic partnerships until resistance becomes fiscally irresponsible. The display showed the latest statistics. 87% of former human adversaries were now classified as close allies. The remaining 13% were listed as pending friends. They just don't know it yet. We've had to create an entirely new diplomatic classification. Auraxis concluded. Humans are now categorized as aggressively benevolent. They don't just win conflicts, they win the peace that follows so thoroughly that their former enemies end up thanking them for the defeat. The council chamber filled with thoughtful pheromones as the implications sank in. Our updated diplomatic protocols now include a warning. If humans offer to be your friend after defeating you, accept immediately. The alternative is that they'll keep being nice until you have no logical choice but to accept anyway, and they'll probably make you financially successful in the process. The mercy paradox became required study in all diplomatic academies. The primary lesson: when humans win, expect them to treat you better than your allies do. And be very, very worried about why that works so well. We've had to create an entirely new diplomatic classification. Auraxis concluded. Humans are now categorized as aggressively benevolent. They don't just win conflicts, they win the peace that follows so thoroughly that their former enemies end up thanking them for the defeat. The council chamber filled with thoughtful pheromones as the implications sank in. Our updated diplomatic protocols now include a warning. If humans offer to be your friend after defeating you, accept immediately. The alternative is that they'll keep being nice until you have no logical choice but to accept anyway. And they'll probably make you financially successful in the process. The mercy paradox became required study in all diplomatic academies. The primary lesson: when humans win, expect them to treat you better than your allies do. And be very, very worried about why that works so well. The paradox protocol concludes with this warning. If humans express interest in your welfare, surrender to their help immediately. They will improve your civilization. They will enhance your quality of life. They will make you more successful. And they will do it all while making it seem like it was your idea in the first place. Tlax's final patterns displayed a complex mixture of awe and resignation. We now understand that the galaxy's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating humanity's military capabilities. It was failing to realize that their friendliness is far more terrifying than their wrath. The council chamber erupted in acknowledgement patterns as the classification was made official. Humanity was formally recognized as the species most likely to help you by any means necessary. The human representatives at the ceremony responded by organizing an impromptu interstellar potluck dinner, proving once again that in the face of formal recognition of their terrifying capabilities, they would simply find new ways to make everyone comfortable with being uncomfortable about how comfortable they were with humans. The galaxy had finally learned its lesson. Never fear humans because they might destroy you. Fear them because they'll probably improve you, and you'll end up thanking them for it.